one that can see.
Where there's women, there's bullshit. John Nada. First and foremost, let me wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. Everybody's Irish today. Today we'll be running the gamut again. The illusion of a woman, the idea of a woman. What is it that men often get tasked as only caring about? The physical, the sexual. When in reality, most of us as guys, I think somebody mentioned on the last video where I was talking about my friend who said he wasn't so much so interested in the sex part. He just wanted somebody that cared about him, that supported him. And I think that's what most guys are really more interested in when it comes right down to it. Are the physical things nice? Sure. But I think that the majority of guys, and yet again, we've been painted with a broad brush, because I think the majority of us, all we wanted was this illusion, this mother figure, this female in our lives that wasn't related to us, that loved us just as unconditionally as our own mother or as our own family members. And yet this is an illusion, and it's always been an illusion. I don't know where we got that idea. I don't know. We were trained from an early age to think that we needed that. You're trained from an early age to think that way. You're trained to think that you need someone else before you even have time to process things. Again, before you even know who you are. Yet, for a guy, as a guy, one of the saddest things, I was thinking about it the other day. I had heard from an ex just kind of out of the blue, and I don't keep in touch with ex-girlfriends, but just kind of out of the blue. Hadn't really heard from her before and hadn't really heard from her afterwards, but just to paint context here, she told me about how she had lost her job, or she just kind of briefly mentioned she'd lost her job, which, that's a story in and of itself. This would be the second job she's lost, and that's the most recent one that she lost. She only had a year. But my point in all this is that, she has a relationship, and she has all these friends. If it had been me, no one would have cared. No one would have given a fuck about whether I lost my job or not. She certainly wouldn't have. And I don't really know what her intentions in telling me that was. I guess maybe to garner support from me. But I knew if the shoe was on the other foot, not only would they not give a fuck, but they would never even know about it, because they wouldn't have cared enough to even engaged in that. So no one cares about you if you're a guy. There are no social programs for you. I mean, again, hence why I really wasn't worried about her, because I know she's getting unemployment. I'm sure there are plenty of social programs for a woman who is without a job or who's down on their luck. There are no social programs for a guy. You're just supposed to buck up and go on. And she has that support network that, let's just face it, most of us guys do not have the kind of support network that women do. Now, I'm not saying that their support networks are necessarily all that good, because a lot of times they have a ton of these friends or a ton of these Facebook friends, but in reality, those people really don't care about them, and those people really aren't going to be there for them. But nevertheless, they've got it. I mean, they've at least got emotional support. They at least have the illusion that somebody gives a fuck. Whereas with a lot of guys, I'll just be quite honest with you, I've never been somebody that had a lot of friends. I've got, 3 or 4 really close friends, and that's about it. And they're kind of, at this point, all spread across the country now. But I don't have like a huge grouping of friends. What I do have is a pretty tight knit, solid family, which is kind of a rarity these days. So I can't complain in that respect. But one thing that I have, really been thinking about here a lot lately is the whole idea of false people. These people that, I kind of just went through a litany of people, and these people had never really been there for me. They had only ever caused me grief. And I just kind of went on a little warpath not too long ago where I just let these people know what I felt. I mean, what difference did it make to tell them how I really thought and what I really thought about them, and to not? I mean, the result was still the same. They were still people that only came around when they wanted something or when they could use me, or had used me in the past for whatever gain they could get. And, when there wasn't anything to be gained, they weren't there for me. They didn't give a shit about me. So I just kind of let them know how I felt about it. And because I figured I wasn't going to hear from them one way or the other either way. So, and the end result, of course, is that I've always been the kind of person, and I wish I could stop being this way, but it's very hard to deprogram yourself from, your natural inclination. And that is, I've always, to some extent, cared a little bit too much as to what some people thought. Not everybody. There's some people I don't give one whit about what they think. But for whatever reason, there'll be certain people that enter my life, and it's very important to me that they have a good view of me or something to that effect. And so now I'm just kind of to the point. One of the benefits of the red pill and going MGTOW is you kind of just realize that people's opinions of you are very, they're not important, because at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself in the mirror, to be cliche about it. But we're tired of dead weight, basically. And a lot of relationships have been that way for me, as I know a lot of relationships have been that way for most guys. It's a take, but no give. Classic Briffault's law. The female, not the male, determines all the conditions of the animal family, and where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male, no such association takes place. Right there. It's a take, but no give. And most women are not going into, I would say no women are going into a relationship thinking how they can improve the guy's life and how they can be good to the guy and good for the guy, but rather what they can gain. And it's sort of like the aliens from Independence Day. That's all I can think about is they take their warships and they go from planet to planet, laying waste to a planet. They take its resources, they take what they can get from the planet, and then they move on. And that's exactly how most women are in relationships. So you start out at a deficit. As a guy, you start out at a deficit in the world in general. You have in some ways less rights as a guy. I mean, women have rights that women don't even know what their rights are. And they're rights that they never really even wanted. They're rights that they never asked for. But for whatever reason, we gave them more rights in some cases than guys. I mean, and people that, if they want to argue that, just look at the reproductive rights and the rights to their own body. I mean, as a guy, I think there was a bill introduced, and I think it was introduced tongue in cheek, but it was about how they wanted to basically put a tax on masturbation. So it's like you can't even do that as a guy without being shamed, without there being some major issue with that or being demonized. But a woman can have an abortion, and like I say, I mean, I don't have a dog in that fight, and nobody bats an eye at that. So, but most women are using the guys they are with to bolster their own, basically their own self-esteem. They're using the guy's, status. They don't really care about the guy for who he is. They're using him for the emotional crutch. They're using him for the emotional support. Who he is irrelevant. What he's going through is irrelevant. It's all about her. It's all about how she's made to feel and what he can do for her. See, and that's the other thing, is that women make terrible friends versus, a male friend. Male friendship is so much deeper. And every female friend I've ever had, which has been few and far between, again, it's a come to you when It's a come to you when they need something or they're down and out and everything else. But then when you need support or whatever, they're nowhere to be found. When they can't get something out of you, they're nowhere to be found. Um, there's no reciprocation there. And so it's just kind of a waste of time. It doesn't help you out at all. And you end up actually hemorrhaging your time and efforts and becoming exhausted trying to keep up, uh, you know, the friendship with this person that's really not a friendship at all. A lot of people, and speaking on that, the society wants you to be so fixated on work and plugged into work that you don't have time to be a human being, and they want you to feel like if you don't, if work calls you in, you're expected to go in. Otherwise, you're not a team player. Or if you don't put in an 80-hour work week, you're lazy. Or if you have things outside of work that interest you and your whole being is not tied into work, then you're just a terrible worker. You're lazy. And that's kind of how relationships are too. Are they not? If your whole being, this is like one of the girls I dated a while back. She wanted every bit of attention, every thread, every iota, every second of your attention. And if you didn't do it, you were abusive. Yeah, it's kind of like in that movie. I think it's Newsroom or something. I can't remember what it's called. But I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And that is MGTOW. I'm a human being, damn it. I have value. And yet we're told that we don't, simply because we were born male. The positive and negative aspects of life, real life. MGTOW can never be a movement because we're all so different. We all have so many different ideas. We're all coming from so many different places. But the fact that we can never be a movement is what gives us our strength, because there's nothing to pinpoint. There's nothing to target. The Patriot missiles of feminism can launch, but they will never hit their target because they don't have the coordinates to hit a target. But it's getting back to the positive and negative aspects of real life. I got so tired of hearing from girlfriends or potential girlfriends. Usually it was potential girlfriends, people that, I met and we maybe went on a couple dates or whatever, about how they're positive people. And you're so negative. And well, I'm positive. I'm just positive about everything. Do you think they would, if they had been living in Cambodia in the 60s or in the 90s or whenever all that took place with Pol Pot, I wonder how positive they would be then. It's not a question of positive versus negative. It's a question of what is reality, what is real life, and that's all fine and well. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being positive. I think overall I try to be positive and optimistic about things, but I've noticed that it's primarily from women that say all this, and it finally dawned on me that it's like, well, sure, a lot of these women are very positive people, and they don't have a negative bone in their body, and so when they're faced with negativity, or they're faced with somebody that clashes with that mindset that they have, they don't know what to do. Yet it's very easy, in my opinion, to be positive when you're a female versus being realistic when you're a guy. Because when you have all the dating opportunity in the world, when you have all the college opportunity, all the workplace opportunity, when you never really have to suffer, when you never really have to be faced with any kind of adversity because you're constantly reassured and coddled and told how wonderful you are and told how you can do no wrong and told that by your very essence of being born and happening to be a certain gender, that you're never wrong. And it's not until later in life, when they squander a lot of their opportunity, that the wall hits or that reality hits. But even then, that's getting pushed further and further back because of the opportunity that's been created for them and being expounded and annexed for them, and the thirst that a lot of guys have just to meet somebody. So sure, it's fairly easy to be a positive person when you have no resistance, when you have fought no battles, when you have no opposition, when you have nobody against you, in the way that men and especially MGTOW are constantly having to defend ourselves and constantly, trying to be shamed and demonized. That's all the time I have for the Days of Thunder. Remember, you're free to do as you're told. This has been John Nada.